pretty much what it is. I'm not even going to bother fucking with the, we're just going right back in. I am pretty, okay, so what did I set up? The Ashian is gone, which means that, so this guy's a death creature. Do we have a share with this guy? Traits? Right now, creature, spell gems. So he can Rapid Dementia himself, which is nice. But putting Rapid Dementia on this guy means that we want it to cast twice, whereas enchant, we have a Rapid Dementia here that doesn't belong to anybody. We can just go charges, cast twice, chance to defend. I actually don't need the more charges on that. We can just disenchant it. Wait, where did it go? Oh. Herc Dirk. Okay. Yeah, we'll go ahead and get rid of that. We'll just enchant it with death. Class swap death. Boom. There we go. Okay, now this creature should be fine to do this. And we just set up a macro. We'll just do macro 8 here. We'll actually, maybe I'll rename the macro. We'll do this. Oh, thank you very much. Appreciate it. She brought me tea. The most tea. We'll just do a gargantuan here. Garg. Gargan. Just Gargan. That's his name. And we will edit this macro to be add a line. If this creature has a silence debuff, where is that? Has a specific debuff. Has silence. Oh my goodness. That is not a number I want to answer for. Screw that. Has silence. What we can do is he can attack. He can attack. We'll just have him. No, we'll have him defend. Screw it. And then because he's not gonna have any attack anyway. No attack stat for this big boy. And then so as if he's got silence, he defends. If he otherwise, we'll just say like, if ally 1 has greater than 0% health, we will cast Rapid Dementia on that son of a bitch. On that creature. And otherwise, if this creature has greater than 0% health, he'll also defend. This guy either defends or he casts Rapid Dementia on my Animatus. Good. Good enough. We'll go ahead and set that up. Macro, Gargan. Boom. And now we're just gonna keep plodding away. Land of Breath and Balance is what we want still, because we would like to get this guy's emblems. Get our God Spawn stuff going on. Oh yeah, that Apis can definitely be killing himself turn 1. There's no reason for him not to do that. I gotta get to Annoyance, man. I am looking forward to Annoyance. It's Ryder, how's it going, man? Every time I see you, I get like little tiny pangs of guilt because I'm like, oh fuck, I should look into that Pokemon thing. Still just been really busy. And in the scant hours that I've had, I've just been playing. I say scant, like it feels it's weird in retrospect. Actually, like the way that my time is right now. Is strange. I am living in like dementia hell. Or like you know, I'm taking care of my grandfather who's got really bad dementia, and so like my time, it's like getting like harassed at random intervals, basically. It's like if you were to set up, you know, you were to set up like a little office workstation or set up some kind of like social experiment where you're to see how productive can you be if we set this random, like this timer to go off at random intervals, and every time the timer goes off, you get like electrocuted. That is kind of like how my life is. So I feel so unproductive all the time right now. But mostly I've been decompressing, trying to play Siralim. I'm actually having a good time with this game. I would be interested to get more people to play this game just for the sake of like talking shit theory crafting, you know? But it is actually always good to see you. You were like one of the best, you're one of the most fun viewers to have pop in when I was playing Dota. Just always chill with your suggestions and your observations. I remember really deeply appreciating that. So the team has come quite a ways here. We are almost to the point. I think we are actually. We're kind of to the point where every creature in the team lineup is germane to the theme. The Buffett Phoenix probably needs to be replaced at some point. The Phoenix in slot 4 probably ought to be replaced at some point. However, that's not really a big deal. Like, just because I can get something more, probably more effective there in that slot doesn't mean that this guy is not relevant. And I need to get, I need to do an assassination quest on the Cosmic Giant. That's something I need to set up before I go to the next realm. Pop back to Siralim and set up an assassination mission. I have 5 projects, so I should probably just wait until one project is done. That'll probably be the Akara, the Godspawn. Because I think, I mean, if I'm not unlucky with my emblems, in this realm, I should probably have the number of emblems that I need to finish off that Godspawn quest. Here we go. All right, just chugging away. At some point, I may run another low interactivity grind fest stream, because I guess there's stuff going on in the back of my brain in terms of like what. Mostly it's me thinking about like what is possible with anointments. At this point, that's really where I'm mostly focused. I have obviously not looked through all of the traits well enough to say that I'm like done with the traits or anything like that, though. Oh look, another stone. Not a great one though. I would really like one with, you can get multiple traits on nether stones, I think. So like two traits or 3 traits even on another stone, which seems to me to be completely nuts. But I guess they're rare enough and random enough that you should really never count on that. Imagine playing this game for long enough that you actually know like what traits do by name, like not just like a small chunk of very handy traits, but like knowing all of them off the top of your head seems wacky to me. Such that you could like paw, because I was imagining pawing through nether stones, trying to figure out if a given nether stone is going to be useful or not at a glance. And what that boils down to a lot of the time is definitely going to be able to, is definitely going to be like being able to read those nether stones at a glance. So like knowing what the trait does off the top of your head. You can, of course, I think, select the trait within the netherstone menu and look at what it does, but that's pretty slow comparatively. So let's see, teleport back. No, I actually don't want to teleport back to Siralim. I have, my projects are full, so we'll just go to the next go to the next realm depth here. Well, my Animatus is certainly... I think I need a way for my creatures to regain their health fully. So they come back at 50% health. Wait. Oh yeah, that guy reses on his own and comes back at 100%. That's 50%? Really? Yeah, there you go. After the creatures are resurrected with 50% health. So that could potentially work with the perdition trait that says when an ally has 50% or lower health, you use the you use that spell that destroys the ally, and then you gain 50% of their stats. I wonder if there are enough stat gain per turn that I can get away with doing something like that with my Animatus. Can't be entirely sure. That was a Nemesis mob. I didn't read the buff over its head before doing it. Here we go. Boop, 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 boop. Trying to remember what Corrupted Phoenix does. The Phoenixes are pretty interesting to me because they're all like death and res effects, I think. At some point I should probably look through the cherubs as well. Cherubs also look pretty interesting. But they're like rebirth and barrier, I think. Mostly. Oh look, it's a Beacon Master. These two. Okay. Guess creatures Animated Gem. Animated Gem is really good. But it feels like you really want to be planning for it. And actually it's one of those things where I'm gonna have to like yeah, actually I should start. I'm gonna pop my Siralim to do eventually. So this is gonna be just like optimize animate guardian or animate gem. Can animate gem pop up in the random minion generation spells, I wonder? At the start of each of your creature's turns, 21st century, 20%. Sorcerer creatures always have protected. Cast a spell. It's sealed. It's not really going to affect. Life creatures and beacon creatures always have Berserk. And that's one of the more powerful ones, seemingly. Berserk is not bad. Just 50% raw ass damage. Raw ass damage. You don't want to be taking too much of raw ass damage. Anyway. There we go. Kill one creature and Corpse Explosion cleans up pretty much everything. That seems to be the way of things at the moment. And I think beyond gaining big boy stats off of like Slaughter Engine, I think looking into leveraging Corpse Explosion even harder than I currently am is probably the secret to success here. Oops. The Arbiters kind of remind me of the Mythicants. Trying to remember if their traits are in any way similar, if it's just the aesthetics. The Mythicants all do something like stat-wise, passively, I think. Let me check them out real quick. Yeah, so these guys also kind of do something. Okay, yeah. I wonder if you can combine a bunch of myth against a bunch of arbiters to get really, really high universal stats, like on all your guys. I'd have to look at the full list of arbiter traits to figure it out. How are we doing on emblems? Oh, we have 53. We can do it. Heart of Akara. +1 Heart of Akara. Excellent. Project ready for turn-in? That's training, though. I want, I want to get the mana. Do I have to use that item in order to get the Akara mana? Probably. Can't be sure. Gotta check the item out. Alright, items. Where is my Heart of Akara? Look at that. Prophecy is really getting done. Let me see if anything happens when I get back to town. See if this is a little simpler than I think it's going to be. Maybe it'll just, like, go off. Who knows? This game seems fun, but I'm barely keeping up. Yeah, that's... there's just so much to it is the issue. It really is fun if you get into it, and I think but it's a particular kind of fun. It's like, I'm very much about the team building, so you're watching me, like, really not give two rats' asses about the combat, right? And that's because, like, the major emphasis of the game is definitely on, like, alright, there's all of these different, there's all these different layers on which you are able to optimize your team, right? You can plot out, macros. So you set up their spell gems, you set up all of their traits, and the traits are multi-layered, right? Because so you fuse creatures, which determines their base stats, also determines the class, which is going to determine the kinds of gems you can put on them, also determines how certain traits interact with them, determines their race, things like that. I was actually doing up a diagram the other day, and I might pop on over to Inkscape and do up this diagram at some point on the stream, and I was just trying to figure out, like, how the pieces of Siralim's character abstraction fits together. And so it's like you've got, maybe I'll do that. Would that be fun? I'll pop up an Inkscape and we'll see. We'll see how. New document. So if I make like a... Yeah, let's see it. Sources, add a source, add a... What do we want? We want a window. Is it going to be a window? Just a window capture? Window capture, add source, add a new source instead. We're going to just go Inkscape. Inkscape. So this might actually be more interesting to you, Strider, if you are still hanging out. Window, we want Inkscape. Capture cursor, done. So let me see. So this is something I was thinking about the other day. Where is this? There it is. Oh, geez. Okay, so I've got my little scratch pad here. I was doing this up the other day, just thinking about it. I'm trying to remember. So this, I can fill it like that. There we go. It's been a while since I've used Inkscape. So let me see. This is, yeah, this is the way to resize this. So I were to do something like this, and I am to go like, okay, so let's just say that this is your creature. I can probably lower the text size here. Font size maybe 10. Fly. Hey, there we go. I'm getting used to so if I double select this and we go over to align and distribute. So if I select this first and this second and we go relative to last selected, and I go like boop. Aha. Now see that's the shit right there. Anyway, I don't quite want to do that because that's, so we'll start with that. So we have our creature, and then inside of our creature we have the, let's see, the artifacts. And I can just shrink this, right? Oh, I can, is it control? There it is, control. So if I got like artifacts here, right? And then the artifacts have like, the artifacts have base stats. So this is how I break things up in my mind. This is honestly me being very, very pedantic, right? But so if I group these, Control G, yes, aha, we're getting there. So your artifacts have base stats, and your artifacts have, wait, I could actually just duplicate this, right? Copy, paste, haha. And then if I Control Shift G, it explodes them, and I can just erase this, and we can go, instead of base stats, go slots. So we got like spell gem slots. Or just go gem slots. Boop. So this is how I'm thinking about how creatures work. And if I want to center that in the middle, it's as easy as this. I love Inkscape. Inkscape is like my favorite thing. So this is center both directions. And if I do the same thing here and I go base stats, and then I select the boop boop, there we go. I select both of these, I go copy paste. Oh, okay, I don't actually have to do that. That's gem slots. So if I group this, and I group this, let me bring these down here. These both exist in your artifacts, just like that. And then within your creature, you also have, I'm gonna do some crazy, this is some crazy nonsense. This is your creature's race. And we'll just align that to the center. And then within the race, you have contained your, oh. You know what's interesting is I think, can't I, what is this? Yes, we can do something like this to make the haha. Oh, there we go. That's cool. I'm just relearning how Inkscape works because that's how I do. So, and this would be like your aesthetics are attached to your race. I've been thinking about how Siralim organizes its team building, because this is the sort of thing that I spend my fucking life doing. Thinking about this dumb shit. Boom, just like that. And then also your trait number 1. So if I copy this, bring it over here for a sec, and we just pop this over, and we go trait numero 1. And actually, I've learned since then that this is probably innate trait. This is better. It's better if you call this the innate trait, for sure. I can sort of mess with this to fit it to the block. Boop boop. We just group those together. Just like that. Align it there. So your innate trait and your aesthetic belong to your oops. There we go. Belong to your race. And then let's see, we can move all these up here. But also belonging to your race is part of your base stats. Part of your base stats belong to your race. So we go copy paste. Boop. Bring this thing out here, and we just go like base stats. So 50% base stats is really. What if I? Yeah, I don't. I could. I could align it this way, right? Then I just. Yep. What? Excuse me. Oh, I see. I've got to break them up. Align this way. This is how my brain works, guys. It's pretty terrible. So if we just go align. Just go like that. Let's group those together. Paste right over here. So let's break these all up. Just so I can mess with them again. And this is not your innate trait. This would be your second trait. And boom, just like that. And then 50% of your base stats. So that, in a nutshell. So we group these up again. If I were to take these and just kind of shrink. Oh, no, let's keep the aspect ratio. Shrink them up over to here, right? Oh, what we want is to use this little feature right over here. Pull this over here. So, and then what you get is creatures also have so if you take this, oh no, you're gonna have to say, can I get like, there we go. We take these and we say personality. So this is a part of your creature, personality. And we shrink this very much till it's like right up over here. Then what you get is you get the we can add one more bubble here. Oh, come on. There we go. And we get your real base stats. Let's just say stats. Let me shrink that up a little bit. This is how your stats are actually gotten, right? So, and one thing about this, actually, that's worth mentioning is that Um, this actually, you get oh no, 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 no. Inkscape has encountered a crash and will now close. No thanks. Okay, it's gonna close. But fortunately for me, Inkscape does a really good autosave thing. So, let me go. Recent files. If I pop a new document and I just go like file open recent, where we go, oh, where is it? If I just search everything and I just search Inkscape, and I search like autosaves. Where are my autosaves? Inkscape. .svg, probably like. Inkscape autosave. Well, I know that Inkscape saves, does like really regular autosaves. I just don't know where it does these things. There it is, automatic save. So if I just pop this, should be today, 526. Nope, we want 5.8. There it is. Sorry, 2.8. Pop, and this should come right up. Aha! Now we are back. So, and it's saved pretty recently, so that's not a problem. So we can just drag this out here, drag this up here. I'm actually already doing this differently than how I did it last time. So, I see. Take all those and group them together, move them up a little bit, and we'll just do exactly like we did before. So the class is an interesting one because the class determines what spell gems you're allowed to use. But that's just a synonym for class, really, like. It's I think worth making a note, but it does feel a little bit weird to so anyway, we'll throw this on here real quick. We'll just go stats. Just like that. And I can just select this and where's my align distribute? There it is. Boop boop. And now this comes right down there. Gem slots. So like this is kind of important. It determines how much of your gem slots, like what color your gem slots are going to be. That is another way of thinking of class, but anyway. So if you do this, you take this whole thing and you group it, and we go, okay. So we just paste these, right? And just like that. This Oh, I should probably figure out a way to, like, move this underneath. So we go, like, layers, and we just go, like, move to layer. Oh. So I have to make a new layer. Below current, add. Then we just take this and move it to... Move to layer. 2. Move. There we go. That was easy enough. Sometimes things are not so easy. I spent quite a little while in Inkscape earlier, like last year. Because I think it's probably like the singular best tool for doing like design document stuff. And this is like entire party, right? But there's more than this now because there's also you get, let's just do like this. Get your specialization. And your specialization holds your specialization holds your perks. Then you get 5 annoyance. And I think the annoyance work like how would I? Probably just this right here, extend this up. Like that. We'll just merge all these. These are now grouped up. And I think how we do this is we go that, we go anointments. So, and now we just save, do like an autosave thing. So this fucking mess is basically what you are interfacing with. I'm actually gonna I'm gonna post this. So you have in your entire party, you've got 6 creatures to work with, right? And the creatures are made up of all the things inside of the creature blocks, right? And probably like this would be a nice time to take like a moment and make a nice diagram of this. And that is what something I want to do if I'm going to spend like if I'm going to get up to the hundreds of hours mark in this game, I'm going to want to fuck with, I'm gonna want to fuck with 5x perks. So like I'm gonna want to make like some kind of cool diagram like this because it'll make me happy, basically. To sort of simplify the way that I'm thinking about like approaching team building. And so when you're eating up a single slot of your party, of your creatures, these are the things that you're allowed to move around and what they're anchored to. So like if you swap out you can change the race of your creature, but the race is connected to the innate trait and 50% of the base stats. You can change out the class of your creature, but that's also going to change the 50% of the base stats and what gem slots you're allowed to, what gems you're allowed to use. That's another way of saying the class, though, at that point. And your personality comes together with the race class to create what are the actual stats after these two are averaged. So these two are averaged, and then your personality modifies the two sets of base stats to get to your real stats. And so this is kind of like, you get 6 of those. You get 6 of those, and you want them all to work well together. And as far as like outside of creature modifications, you get all of the perks inside of your specialization. And what I learned, not too long ago, is that you get the eventually you get to anoint 5 perks from outside of your class potentially, which is really important because perks are very, very powerful. But it's kind of important that certain things are linked together with regards to like a creature, right? So the stats underneath the personality here, these are actually your base stats. The artifacts don't affect your base stats. They modify like the base stats of your artifact. Is one property of the artifact. The artifact thing here was actually one of the things I was least satisfied with regarding my sketch, which I had on this little piece of paper here. Oh shit, I've been covering up my face this whole time. That's okay. I'm gonna drag Inkscape down below that now. So yeah, anyway. That was just something I've been thinking about and wanted to put down, and so I put that all down now. And that's fun. I'll probably work that up later now that I've got a little working prototype for it, Let's go ahead and turn that down. Pretty face is back. I know. My handsome mug, all stressed out with my oily hair and shit. Because unfortunately, like, my life is very stressful right now. So anyway, but that does actually clear up a lot of things up. So, well, it's what I'm interfacing with on like the most basic level, and then of course you have to factor in that there's 1,200 different traits, and you can do things like, so this is the reason that the reason I wasn't happy with the artifact portion of that diagram is because artifacts end up looking like this, right? Oops. So you've got a trait slot in your artifact, right? Which, so really, like, it's kind of important to put a trait pool on the, it's kind of important to put a trait pool here somewhere. So you got innate trait, second trait, and then if we were to do like, oh no, it's gonna have to be like artifact trait. Actually, no, here's how we're gonna do this. I'm gonna go ahead and blow all those up, and I'm going to ungroup that real quick, and we're just going to take one of these, we're gonna copy it, and you're just gonna go artifact trait. This is really important. So this is your artifact trait. And what's important about this, and the reason that I probably need to make that distinction, is because these together sort of form your actual traits. Like, this is what your trait pool is. Maybe I can just do it like that for now, since it doesn't have to be pretty. Like, I'm planning on making it pretty later, but if I do this, then we just go like, oh, it's so ugly though. Anyway, I'll just do it anyway. Just gonna go trait pool. Can I could make the text red or something. Oh god, it makes it so much worse. Anyway, I will shrink that for now. I don't wanna have a ton of. I don't want to take up a ton of time on this thing. I will probably actually dedicate, like, once I'm doing real theory crafting, I'll dedicate the whole goddamn stream to just like making this nice or something. Maybe people would get a kick out of that. Group. And now I just copy paste these. So anyway. So your artifact trait together with your trait from your first creature and your trait from your second creature. So your trait that's connected to your race and your trait that's connected to your class and your artifact trait come together to form your trait pool effectively, like, for the most part. And that is where you get the 3 traits that you're actually able to work with on, like, the team building front back here in the Siralim theory crafting home base, basically. And other traits that you would be working with. And the traits are the big important part of, like, what a creature is. That's kind of worth mentioning, I think. Because the traits are the things, like, that really heavily distinguish one creature from another creature in Siralim. Oh, actually, I guess, to be honest, that whole diagram, what that whole diagram is about is kind of looking at, on a mechanical level, what really distinguishes one creature from another. Like, what is really the difference? What are you allowed to push and pull? Because your creature is actually composed of a bunch of different stuff. Like, your creature slot in your party is composed of a bunch of different stuff that you have access to. And you can twiddle those dials in, but you can't pull, like, you can't, say, change your race without pulling your base stats around. You can't change your class without pulling your base stats around. You can't change your class without subsequently affecting what kind of gems you're allowed to use. You can't change your artifact without changing your artifact base type comes with a stat slot that is, like, predicated on the artifact type that you've chosen. So there are things that you have levers to work with to sort of customize your team together, or to create basically, like, one unique party member, I guess is the way to think about that. You have a whole bunch of different levers to use to create one unique party member, and knowing which ones are connected to which other ones so that you know which you can move independently and which you can't is, like, the way that I start thinking about team building in games like this. Like, on the most abstract level, how are these elements linked together? Because that's what's really important about this stuff, is not necessarily, like, what does this individual thing do, but how they're linked together determines, like, which pieces you can move unilaterally relative to other pieces is what gives you that kind of feeling of customization. So breaking that up into, like, an abstract was the first, like, I was just sitting out on the patio and I'm like, yeah, I have to think about this. So I started doing out a sketch with a bunch of, with, like, a box with a bunch of other boxes in it, basically just making a Venn diagram of, like, mechanics and how they're linked to each other. And I think that once I'm more familiar with all the specializations, all the anointment, like, all the potential anoints, all the traits, what sort of things I can expect to see from netherstones, and what the avatars do and that sort of thing, all the different traits in the game. I will probably put together a nice little diagram for that and spend quite a while thinking about several different comps and just have a bit of fun sandboxing around with it, you know? And I'm hoping to, like, in doing that, maybe I'll contribute something to the community, because I think probably a lot of people have a really hard time in games like this, because it feels like there's a lot of mental overhead. It's like, oh, there's just so much stuff. It's like, well, really, you only, like, there's a limited amount of mobility with regards to, like, what you're allowed to do when you're maneuvering to make your creatures. And kind of laying that out in an illustrative form, I think, is potentially helpful. I don't know, it's helpful for me, so I'm going to do it for myself, and then I'll probably end up sharing it. And that that crazy looking diagram will be, I think, a lot more informative when I spend the time to actually make it attractive and to make it look good. Because it's a visual noise at the moment, but on an abstract level, it does work to describe kind of what you're able to do as a player, what pieces you can move independent of other pieces, and that's really important. That's actually like the most. I have been doing a lot of thinking about RPG design, because someday I would like to design one myself, and one of the most important things, like right down to the kernel, like when you go to start designing a game, like you actually open up Godot and you're like, okay, how do I program this game? Like, what are the systems at the most basic level? In terms of like offering players tools to put together their character. Like, what makes a character customizable? If you make everything completely interchangeable, right? Like, you decouple absolutely everything. Wait, what class does Mala Ofan? I have no idea. Is it death? It's life. Very opposite of my guess. But anyway, when you're going to design something like that, if you decouple everything perfectly, like you make everything perfectly unilateral and independent, you can just change anything about anything. There's no like creative restrictions. And so one thing that makes role-playing games fun, really, is sort of creating this multi-layered complexity where certain things are tethered to other, certain abstract mechanics are tethered to other abstract mechanics. So you cannot, like, this is what makes just as a very different kind of a systems analysis. And I don't even know, I probably chase Strider away because been rambling for a million years, and also like pulling up Inkscape and doing a bunch of diagram things. But here's an example that would maybe resonate with him. One of the interesting things about Dota, right, is that both on an equipment level and on a basic stats level, there's a lot of coupling. So like your primary attribute determines damage, but it only determines damage based on, you know, what your primary attribute is. Only so, like, strength will give you damage if you were a strength hero. So when equipment and intelligence does several things. Strength. Oh. Well, that's my grandfather. Give me the old beeper. So I gotta go help to take care of him. Probably I'll be back in a little bit though. And I will continue with my Dota analogy if I remember correctly. So I'm gonna go ahead and give my BRB screen, and I will be back in a bit, guys. Okay. I don't know how that always happens, but I definitely like my BRB and my starting soon might be duplicate scenes. I may just have to modify them because I clicked on my BRB scene, but it definitely said starting soon, and I think whenever I edit one, it changes the other right now, and that's why that keeps happening. So, what I was saying before I had to go and I got my grandfather into bed and everything was that, like, regarding oh yeah. On a design level, when you are thinking about like team builders or character builders, it's a lot of it comes down to how do you package your mechanics, because the mechanics are just here's a number go up, number go down, like the number interacts with a number somewhere else using some kind of mathematical operation. And so the interesting, fun stuff exists on a level of like, how have you packaged up the how have you packaged up those mechanics such that the player can interact with them? In Dota, you have things like each of the primary attributes. There's the animator. Strength, intelligence, and agility. They all, each of them do several things at once, which means that, which makes them more interesting, because what they are at that point is they are, is this compound stats? Is that the word that I want to use? I'm trying to... The stats are an amalgamate. You can't get one, you can't... So you can get stats, like you can get attack speed. Agility, I think it increases attack speed, and it does a couple of other things. Strider would know. I can't remember. It's been forever. Agility increases attack speed. It increases damage for agility-based heroes. It used to increase movement speed. There's a couple of other things that it might do now. I can't remember. They've changed it over the years as well. But the fact that these are compound stats... Kevnak, huh? Oh, that's really cool. Shared consciousness. Very cool. It says after an ally manually casts a spell, this creature has a 50% chance to cast that spell as well. Very powerful. So the fact that those are compound stats means that when you're designing something like a piece of equipment, right? And what is an equipment slot other than a mutually exclusive stat package, right? Like an equipment slot is... Like when you're designing equipment slots, you're saying, well, I want another set of mutually exclusive stat packages. And when you have compound stats and you have equipment slots, you have created a system where, so like Dota doesn't actually have equipment slots. It has, you have equipment slots, but you don't have different types of equipment slots. With the potential exception of, like, the Agnum Scepter upgrade, which I think you could kind of possibly conceive of as an equipment slot on, like, an abstract level. But the, oh, and the, there are now the neutral items, actually. So, yeah, there are some kind of mutually, there are some equipment slots that are typed now in Dota. But that's what that is on an abstract level. Is you're saying, well, here's this set of stat packages, but they're going to be mutually exclusive to each other. So you can't wear 2 pairs of boots, for example. You can't wear, you can't use more than like 2 weapon slots worth of stuff. Your 2-hander sword takes up both equipment weapon slots or whatever. And when you get to the point where you've got compound stats and you've got equipment slots, you already have a really interesting set of layers that you can leverage as a designer. If you don't want a particular two particular if you don't want 2 particular mechanics interacting with each other, you always put that, or being able to be stacked up, you always put those in the same equipment slot, for example. It means that you have to be it takes a little bit more love, I think, to craft an interesting system once you add those sorts of layers of indirection, but it's way cleaner than a system where everything is allowed to spill over into everything else. You're really setting up these boundary boxes. And compound stats like strength, agility, and intelligence in Dota are really interesting because they allow you to like package up things in potentially undesirable ways that lead to players having to make interesting opportunity costs. You go like, if something gives you plus 300 agility, for example, and agility gives you like, you're a character that benefits from attack speed, and agility gives you attack speed, but it also comes with movement speed. You don't care about movement speed. You know, that is a complex evaluation, even though it's a pretty straightforward set of numbers. And I think compound stats are they're very attractive in some ways. The ways in which they are not attractive is like all kind of pithy abstractions. They come with the drawback that they become jargon, right? Like, in order to create a compound mechanic of any flavor... Oh man, that's a long branch over there. In order to create a compound mechanic of any flavor, you have to sort of introduce jargon, which is ugly complexity. Like any mechanic that can't be described in like 2 words requires you to introduce some kind of jargon typically. Like oftentimes you see this in card games, especially the recent slew of card games, like the ones that were birthed or inspired by Slay the Spire. I guess they're called deck builders. You get jargon in these games because they still treat the card space as being like relevant physical context for some reason, which is kind of dumb. But one of the things that happens is you have a mechanic, and the mechanic actually requires, like, the way the mechanic works requires a paragraph to describe to the player. But you can't put a paragraph on a card. The font will be too small to read, for example. You have these weird physical restrictions. Do I have all my traits? Oh, there we go. So I can actually go ahead and assassinate the... Oh no! So this is where I need a hunt mission on a cosmic giant. I can't do it, can I? Can't do it. I need to actually go somewhere to find the cosmic giant first. Gotta think about the game for a second. E. Cosmic Giant, Titan's Wound, and Forbidden Depths. So let's go to Titan's Wound. Find me a Cosmic Giant. Until we get some... knowledge. Get that up to C rank, and then I can do a hunt mission. Or, actually don't know what rank I have to get it up to. D, right? Oh, what is this stuff? Chemomancer? This creature attacks, it steals 20% of the target's defense and gives it to your creatures. Oh, wow! All of it? That's pretty good. Or all of them. This target's traits that it didn't start with this battle and gives them to your creatures. Pop quiz for the mega intelligent brain max geniuses in my chat. Actually, I just don't know the answer, and I'm wondering if anybody in chat does. Will this peel artifact traits? Because artifacts, I assume not, because it would seem weird. But artifacts I know are not like start of battle traits. They actually apply after, at like step 7 in the start of battle. So I'm kind of wondering. The target speed, yeah. Traits now activate when they are attacked as well. Oh, that's very interesting. Okay, so we've got all the different steals. Seal spell gems. They trigger when they're attacked as well. This probably shouldn't be that bad, honestly. Chemomancer Mastery. All the creatures in your party are Chemomancers. They're on attack, and when attacked, effects activate one additional time. This trait does not stack. I think, like, getting every single Chemomancer trait on a single guy and having him attack a ridiculous number of times would be awesome. But then you would probably run into the stat gain for turn limit. But yeah. So it's basically been me rambling a lot about systems engineering for, like, role-playing games. There's a really good book I read about this recently. I downloaded it in PDF form, so it was like rules and systems of successful tabletop RPG games or something like that. And it used a little bit of UML, but it was really, really it was a really well organized and thoughtful read. It was like 400 pages worth of stuff, and I don't think I'm completely through it. Actually, I think there's still a little bit more. So let's see what this guy... Vexed! Ooh, I remember I wanted to see this guy's trait. What does he do? At the start of this creature's turn, it steals stats. All those stats from each enemy. All stats but health. Uh-oh. So basically we want to kill this this team pretty quickly. We want to kill these guys fast. Okay. One of their sprite artists is just so much worse than the others. It's really bad. Okay, so what is this guy gonna do? Okay, good. There we go. I feel like the Apis is actually just not properly sacrificing himself. Attack a random enemy. Okay, yeah, so he needs to do the sacrifice. I just didn't have that set up. Summon Horde. Attack a random enemy. We just want him to use Ritual of Summoning. Or Ritual Summoning on his subsequent turns. That'll help me to get rid of certain fights. And yeah, I think a lot of RPG design comes down to paying like how good your RPG is going to be on a systems level, and Siralim is not bad on a systems level. I want to be really clear about that. On a systems level, Siralim is doing some of the best work that I have ever seen a turn-based RPG do. It's giving me most of the quality of life features that I want for a turn-based RPG, and it's giving me a very broad possibility space to work with regarding like team building in general. And that's why I think I'm going to do a write-up of Siralim, because I think Siralim is almost like Siralim is kind of the Path of Exile of turn-based RPGs at this point, I think. It's like they've taken an idea and they've taken it to the logical extreme, right? To the extent that I think this is pretty much what can be done. This is kind of at the limits of what can be done without addressing some like underlying problems the genre has, and it's doing a lot of work to address those underlying problems. I actually think Siralim does a better job than Path of Exile of like accepting the limitations of the genre and challenging the conventions of that genre. Path of Exile is a really terrible thing in that it like really embraces so many of the old shibboleth type genre conventions, unquestioningly embraces them, and then like turns them up to 11. I think a game that does a better job of like revisiting genre conventions regarding team builders and monster tamers in the TRPG genre is probably Monster Sanctuary. But Monster Sanctuary is kind of a shit single-player experience, to be honest. Like, it feels so bad to say that because the game is so good in so many ways. But it is... The narrative is trite. Oh, there we go. There's my Cosmic Giant. Maybe this will be it. The narrative is really trite. The Metroidvania interface is silly. It's tacked on for no reason, really. But the team building stuff in the game and the way the monsters are balanced is fantastic. Fantastic. Like, hands down some of the best interlocking team building monster tamer kind of mechanics that I've ever seen. So much cleaner than something like Siralim. But Siralim has a lot of nice quality of life features that Monster Sanctuary honestly would benefit tremendously from. Stuff like search features in menu search features for all the gargantuan lists that the game has. But Siralim's UI does a lot of nice work in other ways. Like, Siralim's battle UI is way better. way better. I've got to figure out like, at some point I've got to brainstorm a better buff, debuff indicator. Like, I've got to figure out, because I'm always tempted to say, like, okay, games really need to do a better job of presenting buffs and debuffs. Like, to be clear about the buffs and debuffs. But I'm struggling to, like, conceptualize an obvious answer to that for myself. Did that sigil just say, like, the leech traits are just multiplied by 300%? I missed that, but that seems huge to me. I think part of it is like, you do visual effects that don't necessarily incur an icon somewhere on the screen. Like Monster Sanctuary limits the number of buffs that you can see at any given moment on the UI, and Siralim feels really cluttered because it's got like 2 pages of UI down at the bottom specifically for buffs, and I am wondering, like, I'm just sitting here thinking there must be a better way to do this. Must be. But I don't know what that better way is. I think it has something to do with sort of disambiguating stacking buffs from non-stacking buffs, and having non-stacking buffs show up visually in a way that doesn't necessarily incur another icon slot, basically. Yeah. We're getting more stuff to make a nice base with. I want to know, am I good to go on my Cosmic Giant farm? Cosmic Giant E. Nope, no hunt mission. D is the hunt mission, so I need to keep fighting here until I have D rank Cosmic Giant unlocked. See, I think stuff like the hunt missions and whatnot is a good way to gate content, actually, and I like the way, some of the way that stuff like this is structured, actually, you know, I appreciate some of the structure of the grind. I'm not sure that I necessarily appreciate the scope of the grind. Like, the scope of the grind is so overwhelming and so tedious that it really doesn't, how come some of those are destructible and some aren't? I'm so confused. Anyway. The scope of the grind is... it feels like they didn't design it very well, basically. But the structure of the grind, in terms of, like... because one thing I appreciate for sure is not having access to everything without some level of investment, right? Like, if you want to have that one crazy creature, you know, you shouldn't just be able to, like, reach into your back pocket and poof, there it is. I like the idea that you've got to go out and interact with some systems and those systems should be, in my opinion, one of the really important things to keep in mind when you're designing systems like that. And what I mean by like that is systems that allow you to generate in-game resources of a specific variety, like all the various projects with the missions that are like You can choose to either be grinding, you know, raw dog resources. You can choose to be like hunting a specific monster. You can choose to be hunting a trait stone. So all of those are in-game resources, and those resources are wonderful in Siralim because they all tie directly back to the team building system, which is, in my submission, the emphasis of the entire game. There is no game without the team building. People who show up to Siralim expecting to run around and have these really engaging, like, moment-to-moment tactical fights are going to be, you know, horribly disappointed by the game. Because the game, all the game really seems to care about measuring is your ability to build a really powerful team. And honestly, it doesn't even test your skill with regards to team building, or at least that I have seen yet, in any way that would sort of narrow your ability to build a team, which is I think is nice, to be honest. It sets you up with tools to measure your own competence, and doesn't dress that up as like difficulty, really. I mean, the difficulty slider is not great, right? It's just a difficulty slider in the menu, which is a different kind of a thing from what I'm talking about. But realm instability, continually progressing upward in depth, taking on the god fights, stuff like that. These are all kind of opt-in challenges. So you can take your team however far you want to take your team, is what it seems like to me. And that is, I think, a really healthy way for the game to structure challenge, because it says, well, okay, here's all these tools, do something interesting, and then challenge yourself. And you know what the maximum amount of challenge is. Cranking it up to RI 5 and going as deep as you possibly can with difficulty on 9 or something like that is the is probably the like highest tuned you can set the difficulty to be, but it's not really necessary. And what you want is to strive toward that. So the game lets you strive towards that without necessarily punishing you for not being there, like without restricting you from being there or for not being there, which is to say that, like, there's nothing punishing, right? And you're not even really, like, I'm running around on realm instability 0 right now, and I don't necessarily feel like I'm missing out on a whole lot. Like, there's an obvious opportunity cost to doing slightly easier realm instability. Bleeding on damage, mending on damage. Nice. Got some nether stones. We are slowly stockpiling a bunch of nether stones. Seems like this game rewards, like, hours spent a little bit disproportionately, I think, is maybe one of my problems. Siralim is going to be a really fun, like, retrospective for me, because Siralim really embraces and then takes to, like, the logical extreme the idea that players are here to grind. Like, they want to run around for hours and hours and hours and hours and acquire resources, watch their numbers go up, play around with the systems. And it's like, that's really interesting. These are really interesting things to package together, right? You create these really interesting team building mechanics, and then you put those systems into a context where 99% of what the player is doing is running around, watching their numbers go up, without a whole lot of, like, challenge. The game doesn't really impose a lot of challenge on you directly. It doesn't do a whole lot of, like, externally defined goals and objectives. You just, for the most part, you're just here to watch your numbers go up, which is great. It feels good. I like the grind, and it's one of those things I've always had to be kind of suspicious about in myself as a human being, because I'm, like, way too inclined to just do something for hours and hours on end. But I like how thoroughly this game embraces that notion. It's like, I haven't seen this guy yet. After an enemy dodges an attack, they take damage equal to 30% of their current health. This trait does not stack. That's cool. I've actually been seeing those guys show up in these combats and thinking I should check out what those guys are doing, because I haven't looked at those guys yet. Anyway, this game, more than any other game I think I've ever seen in this genre, embraces like the endless grind as a core precept of what it is doing. And it's kind of impressive, honestly. And I'm really interested in looking at like what it's doing right and trying to extract rules out of that for how to do what Siralim is doing right, because if you could manage to get as many things right as Siralim does about the whole core gameplay loop as a grind, and about how players who are here for team building, I think there's definitely a synergy there. It's like players who are looking for team building are also really looking for, like, may be responsive to this sort of thing. It's very true in my case, but I actually wonder if it's not true generally. Because if I'm here to... Ooh, a Gargantuan card. Fascinating. If I'm here mostly to interface with team building, I don't really want to to be forced to engage with like these really, like, I don't want really engaging realm gameplay, for example. And I'm wondering how much of that you could tear out. Like, because the realm experience of Siralim is kind of a bummer, generally speaking. So I'm wondering how much of that you could tear out while also, like, keeping the really interesting resource relationships. Like the fact that in order to get a monster, you have to basically kill that monster, right? And you immediately shoot up to 100% mana or whatever. I'm wondering if stuff like that could be made slightly more interesting. Because a lot of the resource relationships in Siralim are very satisfying on a metastructural level, so it's like it's satisfying the way that the resources are set up to filter down into one another, but it's not necessarily interesting how they play out in practice, is what I'm trying to say. Like, okay, the system where you acquire mana to summon creatures is interesting, but in practice, you just go to area where creature is spawned, kill creature one time, return to base, and so it creates what feels like a chore. And that chore feels well positioned within the core gameplay loop, because the core gameplay loop is building your creature team, going out, killing stuff, getting resources, coming back, and so it's got every element of that. It's got every element of that core gameplay loop in there. You go out, you fight the creature that you want to have mana for. You get the mana for that creature by winning the battle. You come back. But in practice, it's just not that interesting, right? Like, in practice, and I mean, I'd be interested in other opinions on this, but in practice, it feels kind of like a chore. Like, because it's so trivial, I think, like, it's so mundane. And I think really what Siralim is missing in regards to a lot of its resource relationships, which feel like they're hypothetically interesting and engaging, right? The way that the resources are tied together feels good, and then doesn't work out to feel good in practice. I think the reason why it doesn't work, like the reason why that doesn't translate, is when it's like it looks good on paper, looks like it should be really interesting on paper, and then just doesn't work out, is because while those relationships are good and they are well positioned within the core gameplay loop, oftentimes they fail to, like, Siralim has failed to impose an opportunity cost. So, like, there's often a hand wave at imposing an opportunity cost. And in the case of, like, okay, I need to collect this mana to go out to... I need to select this mission and go out and collect this creature, and then I will get its mana, and then I'll bring it back. In that case, it's like, where's the opportunity cost? Because if there is no opportunity cost, and here's the problem with anything that becomes a chore, like anything that in practice boils down to like a really simple and straightforward exchange. The player does a thing and gets a thing, is that if there's no in-game opportunity cost resource-wise, then what that becomes is player time for in-game resource. Like, that is the automatic opportunity cost. And that is very rarely a fun opportunity cost unless you design around it very carefully, I think. Let's see. What am I looking for right now? Bestiary, Cosmic Giant. That is what I want. E. We're not to D yet. Oh, God. Just gotta keep doing it. I've killed quite a few Cosmic Giants. This is kind of problematic, man. I was not prepared for... I wonder if the Giants appear more regularly in the other realm that they appear in. Because the Cosmic Giants do not appear very regularly here. It's been kind of a problem. So, it's going to take a while to unlock this Cosmic Giant's trait stone. But we can keep going. So what I mean by returning to the rambling, the game analysis rambling, there's a hand wave at an opportunity cost for stuff like that in this game, and that is the power resource that you have to spend in order to select a specific realm, or in order to push up realm instability. The problem with that is that even from a very early stage, the very earliest stage of the game, you are getting more power back from full clearing realms than you have to spend to select a particular realm, and there's no real, like, at that stage of the game, there's no real reason to select a particular realm anyway. But I guess what I'm getting at is the power income so far exceeds the power outgo, that opportunity cost is not impactful for the player in any way, shape, or form, and so it loses its status and potential as a meaningful opportunity cost. And so what we have is a system where, since I have such a massive surplus of every kind of currency, I do not care about the opportunity costs that are hypothetically being imposed on me. So they're fake opportunity costs, which is why I said they are hand waved. Like, I don't know if I believe that. I don't know if I believe that the power cost, for example, is supposed to be anything more than a hand wave at an opportunity cost, because of how incredibly trivial it is. If it were even a little bit steeper, or it's scaled in some way, I would probably be more willing to, like, give it the benefit of the doubt in terms of design implementation. If it was like, okay, well, you know, at least they're trying to make this meaningful. But I mean, 1,000 power to select it. I mean, I have a 1.18 million power right now. 1.18 million power. It still costs 1,000 to choose a particular realm. Like, that's not important. Even bumping up realm instability, it's like, what, 1,000 per tier of realm instability or something like that? Or is it just 1,000 for whatever amount of realm instability? The problem with that is that the relevant stability automatically means that you're going to be getting more power back than you've spent for it. It's 50% chance to avoid damage while defending or provoking. Huh. Master of Gargantuans. You got it. So the power opportunity cost is fake. And I think that is a big problem in Siralim. And it's honestly a big problem in any boundless run game. Right? And I'm one of the things that I've been thinking about lately is whether or not that is actually a soluble issue. Like whether or not you can actually answer that problem, because in a boundless run game, if you create a really, if you create a serious opportunity cost, are you just creating a more substantial chore for the player is the question. And I think that, like, the answer is that in boundless runs, you either have to get very creative by creating, like, small compartmentalized pieces of roguelike type play. And I think one thing that is really kind of important... Oh, I have gained enough mana to summon a Kara. Excellent. Cool. I don't know what to do now. Okay, so I have to buy the item and then run around with the item with the project active. And now I can summon a Kara. It's sweatpants and a sweatshirt. That's what a Kara is just purple smoke in, like, pajamas. Okay. Yeah, so I guess I summon this. But now I need the Apis Majesty and the Envy Sin. Are the sins over here, I wonder? No. Is Envy, so like if we go to the bestiary, we go to E, is Envy there? That's the question. Nope. Oh boy. Alright, now I have to pop open the Siralim Planner real quick to do a search here. I'm not even... Nvidia's in, there we go. Like the graphics card. I actually like the word invidious, but it's way more fun to think of it as the graphics card. So, sorting by name, we go to I. Invidious and... Yeah, we definitely don't have... Definitely don't have that again. So basically we gotta hunt those two down. So let's go bestiary. This is something I can do right away, so I might as well do this. The Apis Majesty shows up in the Barrens and the Overgrown Temple. Let's do a run in the Overgrown Temple, huh? Where are you at? I like the Overgrown Temple color palette, so. But yeah, I think that TRPGs have a lot to learn from roguelikes. Maybe. It's like a low confidence assertion here, but I think that in order for the genre to progress to something, you know, even more beautiful, like to the next evolution of the genre, I would say, is going to involve like some kind of like building in some kind of bounded run aspect to it. Some kind of resource management that exists on kind of a bounded run dynamic that keeps the game from being an endless loop of time for in-game resource accretion. Oh, there's my Apis Majesty. So I probably will get enough mana here. Oh yeah. Have to include scrolls in my visual diagram. Scrolls are yet another team building element that you have to consider. So you get 15 scrolls per creature. There's the 6 o'clock church bells going off across the street. Okay, what is this? Xerxes. Xerxes, maybe. One trick mind. After an enemy takes an action, they must take that same action for the rest of battle. Okay. So today we play a game of we're not going to slaughter. Instead, we're going to have this guy cast Ritual of Summoning to put 4 unstable horrors on our... Uh-oh. There we go. Uh-oh, he casts Slaughter? I see. Well, we're just going to have to keep going then. Okay. Xerxes is dead. So one more nether boss down. But yeah, I think for this genre to evolve, again, we're gonna have to see some kind of very cleverly constructed, compartmentalized, like carefully compartmentalized rogue elements in turn-based RPG games, because the boundless run, the concept of the boundless run really doesn't cooperate very well to produce a healthy play environment with Clockman, huh? Is that a plush? I hope that was a plush. I like that guy. It really doesn't cooperate very well with like boundless runs don't go well together with team builders or character builders, or I mean builders in general, I guess, to create a healthy play environment. They focus far too heavily on accretion, and like it's difficult to create a place with like a feedback that rewards surveil your apices, gain the live long trait. I wonder what the live long trait is. Anyway, more traditional elements, so closer to CDDA and that, or more like roguelites. More traditional elements, I would say. So the problem that I have with the rogue and roguelike genre is that the rogue and roguelike genre do a really beautiful thing where they emphasize the absolute heck out of like tactical and strategic thinking, but they don't reward. They carry over a bunch of very old, very poorly thought out genre conventions from earlier games. Like this is the problem with like roguelike. As a taxonomy, to call a game roguelike, it's like, well, how much like Rogue was it? And so you get things like a lot of roguelike fans are fans of things like opaque mechanics and rote memorization of like threats and things like the identification minigame, which offers like the identification minigame in like Dungeon Crawl Stone Soup, for example, where you have you pick up a bunch of unidentified scrolls and potions and things like that, and the key to messing with the system, like the key to learning to utilize the system, is learning when it's most efficient to identify your unidentified crap, right? Like your scrolls and potions and whatnot. And so you want to like maximize safety, and there's an opportunity cost associated with it. But I would say that it's enough of a chore, and it's enough of a it's enough of a chore and enough of a bummer that it just really doesn't offer enough return on investment for like the amount of depth that you're getting out of that is so little depth for so much chore, so much mundane chore and so much complexity. So there are all these conventions in the roguelike genre that people have no problem with. Stuff like randomness being completely allowed to screw you, like that are just really not conducive to the sort of thing that the roguelike genre wants to measure. And I'll adumbrate that in a second. I'll expound upon that in just a moment. I want to find out where the NVIDIA sin can be found. There it is, NVIDIA sin. Where do we get you? Sanctum Umbra. All right, come in. Let's go, Sanctum Umbra. So when I say like more traditional elements, I mean the sort of thing where there's a very real opportunity cost to what you are doing, in that you potentially stand to like plateau or lose progress, but not in the sense that the game is going to punish you with some kind of menial chore or make you feel really bad for like an extended period of time. One of the things that I hate the most in design discussions with people, like all sorts of people will engage with you in design discussions, and only a few of them usually have thought about it, like a really substantial amount of thought, put a really substantial amount of thought into it. So it's like I get into these conversations all the time with people and discover like halfway through discussing the issue with them that like they have a very like fundamentally different notion of something like difficulty than I do. And like what I think of as difficulty is like probably what most people think of as a skill ceiling. Like I think the higher the skill ceiling is, the more difficult the game is to master, and so that's like a good measure of the difficulty of a game, right? So but it's not the only worthwhile measure of a game, right? Because you can have an absurd amount of complexity in a game with very little like return on investment. Like you're getting very little depth out of the complexity that you add. And that's where you get games like Siralim and games like Path of Exile, where they obviously value complexity to the extent that they aren't really considering like how much depth per capita they're getting on their additional complexity. So they'll add complexity and add complexity and add complexity, and it's true that it's still getting you returns on like how much depth the game offers to a player, like how much replay value, how broad the possibility space is for team building and messing around and stuff like that. Like how cool, how nifty of a toy is it? But they're not focused on the, since they're not focused on that return on investment, you end up with games that are hyper complex that your average player will never look at twice, or will be scared off by very, very quickly. Anybody who's like tried to introduce a friend to Path of Exile has had this experience of like watching your friend open up the passive skill tree for the first time and go like, you're like, no, nuh-uh. And Siralim's kind of the same way. It's like, okay, well, there's 1,200 traits in this game. It's like, wait a second, like 1,200? Like that's, if you told somebody like, okay, here's a system and you're gonna have to learn 1,200 different very unique, things and how they work together, in order to like stand a chance of like doing the thing well. It's like that's like a medical degree. That's like a lot of shit, you know? That's a lot of investment. And the thing is that games like Siralim don't do a whole lot to protect the player from that kind of overwhelm. They don't do a whole lot to protect the player from the complexity of the system. They don't like make a lot of effort to reduce that mental overhead or make the information easier to parse or any of that. And so what we like is we like that roguelikes emphasize this sort of strategic thinking. They emphasize this sort of tactical gameplay. They want you to they want to measure your ability to utilize the tools and the systems. I have found you through DCSS. Did you? But yeah, Path of Exile was extremely like, okay. How do I know I didn't mess up that tree? Yeah, that's and that's the thing is, these games are pretty complex. I've been getting into chess, and that's been a chore. Well, I actually have been thinking about chess as well myself. I am learning chess coordinates using like an Anki flashcard software, and it's sticking a lot better. Like, I think I actually basically know chess coordinates now. It's just that I've got to get used to reciting them more quickly and flexibly and like in context. Like, hypothetically, I know how to read the coordinates on the board now. With a couple of seconds of delay, I can tell you, what square, what a square's notation is. Anyway, yeah, roguelikes have a real problem because they propose and broadcast and telegraph that they're going to measure a certain kind of a thing, and then they do things that are directly problematic to their ability to measure a player's skill in the way that they're telegraphing that they want to. Like, if randomness happens to you, your strategic ability, if randomness happens to you and you lose because of something that was impossible to anticipate, and you had to rote memorize that this thing was coming up or could come up in order to have like played smarter and avoided it, like, there's some argument for, well, that's like getting used to the game over time, but also I feel like games can do a lot of work to like precondition the player to respond to threats, especially single player games. And really intelligently built games are doing that constantly. They're constantly conditioning you to anticipate the problems they're going to throw at you before slowly constructing situations where they throw multi-pronged problems at you. Oh, you found me through Malcolm Rose, did you? I thought you were doing Dota stuff. God, and you found me DCSS? I thought you were back in the Dota streams. I'm so confused, man. I never fucking know. I never know where people come from. It's hard to keep track. We're gonna go to the new realm. I did watch back in the Dota streams. Okay, you're from everywhere. Yeah, Malcolm and I have a really interesting history regarding our like discussions of game design, actually, because I really think that a lot of it comes from like we haven't been able to like get down to the axiom in some conversations, but there are differences I'm not clear on in a lot of cases, because Malcolm, I think, is a very thoughtful, intelligent human being, and generally I respect his opinions where game design and these sorts of analyses are concerned. But there's a lot of stuff where I feel like Malcolm, having been such a like dyed in the wool roguelike player, he's really fond of things like I want in a game, I want a lot of room for expressive play, right? So how much? Okay, so this one's ready as well. So I can actually make that creature now. So I want a lot of room for expressive play, and I think that Malcolm and I kind of differ on that, because when you, in order to increase the room for expressive play, you have to increase somewhere in your game. You have to increase the latitude of the game. You have to make the game by like the most stringent definition of the words, or the most stringent colloquial definition of the words. You have to make a game easier in order to make it allow for more expressive play. So like in DCSS, for example, I don't like that a lot of the time you're really making pretty tragic mistakes if you don't like flex into certain things that just show up. If like you get a +9 spear of ass fucking at like floor -2, you should have equipped that spear, you know? Like, you should equip that spear and then start like building your character into that spear, almost certainly, like regardless of your species background combo, that sort of thing. What am I doing here? Let me summon my dudes real quick, and I will get back to I'll get back to talking here in a minute. Apis Majesty. Oh no, I didn't need the Apis Majesty. I actually have to kill a whole bunch of those so that I can get it straight stone. The Invidious Sin, which one is the more important one? Okay. So we want it to be death, probably. So we are going to use the Apis, artifact here. Do we have one of these? Necessitarianism. That's a hell of a word. Codex, reference list, status effects. Not status effects. What do we want? Traits. So confirm. We have a 0. Okay, so we can't quite do this yet. Although it's probably better to use... It's probably better straight up. So death, so we fuse the Akara with the Akara's nature. So we want to fuse Akara first, Invidious Sin second. That's a crazy one. Is this just... There we go. And now if we go creatures, we unequip this guy's the horns. So summon horde, unstable horror, ritual summoning. Horde, horror summoning. Horde, horror summoning. We just deposit this guy and we withdraw Akara. We reorder. Creatures. Equip the horns. We go horde. Horror. And then we want to strategy macro and assign this guy the macro that the other guy had. Which is this one, but we actually want to modify that. Modify this, where is it? Right there. And we want to go add a line. I guess we have if any ally has minions, has greater than like 1 minions. It's greater than 0 minions. We cast ritual summoning. That's what that is. Ritual summoning. Ritual. Not ritual of summoning? Is it ritual of summoning? Let me see. Yeah, ritual of summoning. Okay. So we go back to macros. We edit this real quick like. Nope, that's the wrong one. There we go. We move this line up. Boom. Okay, and that will happen before he checks to do random attacking stuff. Okay, so creatures, I equipped the horns here. We set him to macro. It looks right. We're gonna go ahead and level him up. The problem with this, honestly, is that, so his traits are +5 for every non-ethereal spell gem it has equipped. Based on this, only the first 8 spell gems are considered. So how do I get him enough spell gems, non-ethereal spell gems? So is that where we take the horns and we add spell gem slots? The horns. The trick slot can get us spell gems, right? Stick L spell gem slots. 3 spell gems. So 3, 3, and 3 would be 9. So we do another set of... Oh no, what? Really? So how do I get... So that's only 6. How do I get this guy more spell gem slots? Let's see. I wonder if I have to get like another stone that gives spell gem slots. Okay. Tools of the trade. I see. You get 3 for another stone. So I'm definitely going to probably need to use a another stone. Yeah, I can't afford to lose the trait, honestly. 6 is going to have to do it for the time being. And it looks like the death, gems are giving me int. So let's go. Yeah, because I've got... No, maybe it's defense. Yeah, it's defense. So I'm going to have to give this guy... Oh yeah, I would have to... And it's by color, so this guy needs to have the relic that allows him to equip all the different kinds of gems. There's a relic here. Which one is it? It's the chaos one, but I don't remember which one that is. There it is. Shifting Gem of Aurum. Okay, so yeah, Materium I could potentially get. So chaos slots, life slots. I have 48,000 piety. We're slowly getting more piety. Nature spell gems. And death spell gems is the last one. It's actually pretty... Oh no, sorcery spell gems. That's cool though. Yeah, we can do that. We can make that work. We'll get the Materium eventually. 10,000, huh? Wait. Yeah, dear God. So these become like exponentially more expensive as you unlock all of them. Holy crap. That's gonna be terrible. So I need the bramble skin unlocked like right now so that I can start working on that, since I know that I'm gonna want that one. I'll get this one up to 10 real quick. And then we'll go... The bearer attacks a random enemy. Maybe we'll get this one up to 10. What's rank 30 here? 10% maximum health. We'll have to figure it out. Get Whisper up to rank 10 as well. And we'll figure it out. So I'm going to go ahead and attune a relic to this... Wait, what? Make all of your relics more powerful? What is that? Oh my goodness. I mean, seems cheap. Seems like a cheap way to pump numbers. We're going to attune Materium to this dude. And we'll attune the bramble skin to this dude. And then we're just going to keep going. What do we have to do? We have to farm the Apis, and we have to farm the Cosmic Giant. And the Cosmic Giant's at the Titan's Wound. But it was also somewhere else. It was Path of the Damned, maybe? Or was it something else? I think it was Path of the Damned and Titan's Wound, but I will continue to grind at Titan's Wound for the Cosmic Giant, and we can do it in that order. It's not terribly important which order I get these things done, and the team is working fine. To be honest. Right now. Perdition. Perdition? Is that actually Sanctum Umbra? It is. Excellent. 6:30. I got about a half hour, guys. About a half hour and I will be working. Get this shut down so I can go. And I've got a weekly meetup with my old roommates. my housemates from that are way, way away from me now. They're like in fucking Phoenix or Tucson, Arizona. I'm like an entire country away from them, almost. I mean, if this were Europe, it would be more than a country on the other side of the goddamn states. Oh, so anyway, it seems that in order to get my God spawn there up to doing what I want, I am not only going to need another stone, but I'm also going to need some relic power, which is fine. That is not a problem. We can handle it. I'm actually, again, this is kind of interesting. Like, I enjoy this kind of a grind. I definitely wish that the combats would go a little faster. Like, I don't know why all of these tiny, stupid animations play. Like, none of this is relevant to me, and I should be able to disable all of it. And honestly, the manual component of combat could be done away with entirely in favor of, like, a smart macro machine. Like, if the macro interface had been, like, lovingly crafted as a core component of the game, you could just do away completely with the manual component of the game, which I think would be better. Because, again, it takes it a step away from the sort of manual, like, tactical play-by-play focus on the game. And it's really amazing how easy it is for people to get caught up on, like, what part of the game should be the main part of the game. People will show up and focus on whatever the hell they want in your game, and I think the more clearly that you can set your game up to be, like, the one thing that you wanted it to be about, the better. Like, the clearer the identity of your game, I think it's a sign of a good game, basically. Like, a clean identity. What is the opposite of dilute? Concentrated? Concentrated, highly refined, highly distilled identities make for good games, in my opinion. I'm definitely feeling like I'm on track with the build at the moment. Actually, I am kind of interested to see. So, like, defense 6k, defense 4,333. I wonder. I wonder if Thrive, no, Thrive on Death says not Thrive on Death, but Endowment says the start of battle. So if we inspect him, he's taking a shit ton of defense from this guy, who is then borrowing the defense back. Yep. But then this guy's got a big old artifact. That's okay. But then he's borrowing the stats back. It's good. It's going to be a really fun positive feedback loop that results in very, very high stats, but oh yeah, that's right. We don't have the Cosmic Giant yet. Wait a second. Okay, yeah, it's time to go. Time to dive. Wait. Did I donate? Aha. Excellent. Just gonna keep it going. Got maybe 15, 20 minutes before I gotta go. We'll see how much progress we can make in that amount of time. So we have a big, fat, cosmic, giant, gargantuan guy in the corner there, doing work. He is now... Oh, the tank, that's right. Now that I have that, it's actually valuable for me to be splitting damage with that guy. It's slowly coming together. All the pieces are coming together. What was I saying about, you were talking about Malcolm, the fact that you met me over there through DCSS, and that was one thing where, like, I got recruited into, like, playing on Malcolm's clan for that one tournament, and went from being, like, a 0% win rate player over the course of, like, 300 games, because I just, you know, I was playing for shiggles and, like, checking out the systems, to, like, doing like a 12-game win streak or something like that for the tournament, and it was like that actually made the difference. If I had done any more poorly on my win streak, we would not have won that tournament. And I think Malcolm kind of brought me in as like a, you know, well, just in case, like a filler slot. And in like over the course of 2 weeks, I think I played like 16 hours a day. I would wake up, I would do some exercise, I would sit down and play the game like it was my job to like learn the game. And I had a I had a group of individual mentors who were all like really good at the game on Discord. I was able to ask them questions and was able to like shotgun really fast games. Just trying to get better at the game as quickly as I possibly could. And it was amazing. Like over the course of a week, I went from like a 0% win rate at the game to probably like I could easily streak like I could probably repeat that streak fairly easily. I mean, the game has changed a bit, but the fundamentals haven't changed that much. And so I went from being like very stock like average player to top 1% of top 1% over the course of like 2 weeks in preparation for that tournament. And learned a lot about like the way that wound up spending a lot of time with Malcolm and talking about games. And I think one of the things that like one of the tenuous threads that we still have to talk about, he and I, about video games is like what exactly like we are looking for in a game by with regards to like difficulty. Difficulty is a really fascinating subject because so many people conflate punishment and difficulty. Like, a game can be difficult without being punishing, and a game can be punishing without being difficult, but people experience them, like, deeply, personally experience them as coming packaged a lot of the time. What in the heck is going on with this? Can I win? There we go. We have some corpse explosions happening. So it's a really touchy subject for people. Like people think that Dark Souls is terribly, terribly difficult, and I will cop to like Dark Souls is definitely a game that's measuring like a kind of interdisciplinary skill. Let's say like you're definitely getting some of your like kinesthetic aptitude measured in Dark Souls. And you're definitely getting like some of your character building and like your attention to detail on boss fights and stuff. Like it's measuring skills along different vectors. But one of the things that Dark Souls does that inflates people's feeling of how difficult the game is that the game is terribly punishing. Like I remember trying to play Dark Souls and just, well, number one, Dark Souls is a third-person game. And I have problems with third-person games, so I'm not especially likely to stick with them because they make me feel like my peripheries cut off. but I gave it the good old college try. And one of the first things that I noticed, like going back to the fight, back to the boss fight over and over again, the dancer fight, was like, I was trying to do the dancer fight with a big old two-handed axe, which is just inadvisable. Don't do that. But dying to that fight repeatedly, I became like so disillusioned with the game as a game, because you have to run like all the way back to the fight every time you die. You die, and then you've got like several chores to do before you can restart the fight. And that's just horribly punishing psychologically to the player. You're like, you just want to get back in there and practice that one bit that you keep failing on. But in order to do that, there's a massive punishing buy-in. My last stream was Elden Ring, and before that was Dark Souls 1 Soul Level 1 run. That's I didn't know you stream, Strider. I should at some point like add you to my list of peepos. See, I'm gonna go ahead and follow you. Oh no, I'm not going to follow you, but I will keep your page up because I'm not logged into Twitch right now. Despite streaming, I'm not logged into Twitch right now. So I will add you post-stream when I can log in. But Dark Souls is like my go-to example of a game that is like, I would never say anything like Dark Souls is not a good game or Dark Souls is not difficult. But Dark Souls is a game where people over the perception of the difficulty vastly outstrips the actual difficulty of the game, because a lot of what is accounting for people's idea of how difficult that game is has to do with how punishing the game can be. And for some people, that difference is a distinction without a difference, because some people have taken it so internally that, like, for them, what a difficult task is a task where you have to like endure the punishment. And I have discovered, give me 1 second here. Cosmic Giant, where are you at? Cosmic Giant. I will go on in a moment. Cosmic Giant? Cosmic Volps? Cosmic Giant, there we go. E, so not D. We're not there yet. But yeah, your analogy works. Dark Souls is a fair but punishing game. So like, what I would say about what I would say about this whole conversation regarding difficulty is that for some people, it is true that they mean what they say and they say what they mean, and what they mean is that for them, they're using difficulty as a compound word. Like, their definition of difficulty implies some level of punishment, and that they mean that when they are talking about difficulty. And you can sort of tease for people that for whom this is true, of which I know many and respect many of them for whom this is true. This isn't something where it's like, oh, I lose respect for you if you think this. This is just a way that some people definitely think. And what I have discovered is that if you talk with these people, like have a deep and genuine conversation and try to tease out the axiomatic differences in how you're thinking, you can tease out the inconsistencies behind how they're thinking about these words, and you can get them sort of, you can gotcha them, which is not what I like to do. I'm not participating in conversations to have a gotcha moment, but it's really interesting. You can tease out the differences between punishment and difficulty and get them to talk about these two concepts as like an isolated phenomenon. People will like say, well, okay, but difficulty, but like punishment is specifically this one thing and difficulty is specifically this other thing, and you can get way down there in the conversation and tease those apart, right, for the other person. But then if you like, the moment it's almost like magic. At some point, your conversational partner will blink, and suddenly they're back to, yeah, but no, difficulty is all of these things. And what I take that to mean when I'm talking to people is not like, well, oh, that person's just an unreasoning lunatic. They're like, you know, they're not consistent, and that's irrational or whatever. What I take that to mean is that they've internalized this concept so deeply that for them, like, the words really do. There really is some, like, semiotic blurring in the words for them. And in some sense, it's really easy to imagine, right? Like, there is some, like, there's some deep personal experience for people where if they have to endure something, or they put a lot of time into something, for example, like, it's no more difficult, really, in my submission, right? If you have to grind, like, 10 minutes versus you have to grind 30 hours, right? If the grind is identical. But many people would say, like, okay, well, it's much more difficult if you've got to obtain that if you've got to grind 30 hours. And so it becomes a really obvious distinction where you're saying, like, okay, so something is more difficult if it actually just demands more human hours of you, which is fair because the way that we talk about difficulty in regards to something like, you know, how long will it take you to, like, move this pile of rocks over to there, you know, if we're talking about something that simple, we're saying, like, well, okay, it's definitely more difficult if the pile is bigger. Like, the task doesn't change if the pile is bigger. And so you have aspects of physical exhaustion and weariness and endurance coming into play. But I dare say that a lot of people would make a distinction, like a qualitative distinction. If they're talking about when they're talking about, like, what they want out of a video game or a sport or a Magic Circle style game where you are defining the rules of the game and the players are here to participate in some kind of distinct or deliberate measurement of their own capacities. Very few people show up to a video game, I would say, and go, you know what I'm definitely trying to measure here is what I'm definitely trying to measure here is my ability to endure suffering, right? Like, that sounds like a really shit game. Like, that is a bad concept for a video game. And so I think it's really interesting because the semiotics of the concepts do, I think, kind of blur together in a way that is organic and leaves room for these people to experience what they're experiencing without, you know, there's no reason to think anybody's, like, foolish for thinking that way. But it does raise some really, really interesting questions with regards to, like, what we want to do with video games, and the way that people talk about difficulty. Because when people talk about difficulty, if you tease out this element that's like, well, how much suffering do you really want in your video game? Like, do we really want, in video games, do we really want to increase the perception of difficulty by increasing the total amount of suffering that someone has to endure? You know, the other thing is to be able to put that question out there without it being perceived as sarcastic, right? There's no, like, bitter contempt in that question for me. It's a real question, I think. Is like, and that's why part of this for me started out like, well, okay, because I'm enjoying parts of the grind of this game, right? And so there's tolerance in me for, like, the number of hours the game is asking me to throw at it. Of course, there's a sensitivity in me as well. I think a lot of people who really like grind, they're not very sensitive to having hours of their life whittled away by a video game, and they're actually very, very susceptible to, like, the sort of addictive addiction loops that happen in video games like this. But, you know, for me, there's a sort of a level of tolerance, and I like it when instant gratification is not always a thing. Like, in Minecraft, it's okay, you know, I would rather play the game on survival in creative mode, 100%. So, you know, what does that mean? That means that there is absolutely a distinction here to be had about, like, return on investment and satisfaction and what does it mean to, like, perform a task. And I think what I think a part of the puzzle when I'm teasing this apart for me comes down to thinking about like what feels like artificial bloat or cruft, right? Because when you're talking about a game like Minecraft, Minecraft is very nice because it feels like it's pretty obvious in Minecraft that you, like, a big part of the premise of the game is that you're starting with these really basic resources and you're able to build like self-automating machines and stuff like that eventually, like way down the road. But part of what you're building at first is like a little base to set up like a more efficient resource grind and that sort of thing. But there are so many games where the grind feels artificially sutured on. Legend of Strider says, yeah, I get what you mean. If you're grinding but you feel rewarded for it, you grind for diamonds, but hey, you got diamond gear versus grinding 10 hours because you need a rare drop from an enemy drop is like a dumb achievement or something. I mean, I think it's even more, I think you can even break it down into like a more tangible, in a more, I want to say a slightly more salient way than that. What I mean by that is that I think a part of what creates satisfaction in the reward process is how directly you are involved in the doing of what you are, like, what is the end goal. It's like you want to have that relationship between what you are doing and what you are gaining to feel direct, right? You don't want the doing action and the pursuit to be terribly disjointed or many layers of indirection apart. Like how in the modern world we work for money at a desk job, you know, that involves us sitting there and crunching numbers for hours, or you're bagging groceries or whatever. And then that money number, which is like a magic digital number, goes into your magic digital bank account that you never fucking see or handle. And then your plastic card enables you to buy food at the grocery store. And that's cool because it's very convenient. And I'm not shitting on, you know, the modern economy for that particular artifact. Because it's nice to have all the modern conveniences and whatnot. But back to my point, it is way more satisfying as an activity where the activity is a terminal goal. So like where the activity is the point, right? So a game should be the activity in itself, unless it is a game specifically to train you to do something. Then the activity is its own goal. It is a terminal activity. It is intrinsically rewarding, right? And playing a video game should be intrinsically rewarding. So where intrinsically rewarding activities exist, it's really important to feel directly connected to what you're accomplishing. So like, if getting your food, like, it's way more satisfying to farm your or hunt your own food and then eat it. We all know this, people talk about it all the time. If you do that kind of work, if you do the hands-on direct work to produce the food, we're gonna try to macro this fight down, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But anyway, the reason that we don't care about that is because getting your food is not necessarily something that everybody wants to do as an intrinsic activity, right? We're not all sitting out here like defending. We're not all sitting out here like saying that everybody ought to aspire to be a farmer. But pretty much everybody, but I think it can be said that pretty much everybody who shows up to a video game is there to play the game and have a good time. Typically, that's not, I think, a stretch. And so, oh, I'll be right out, by the way. I'm just finishing up the nether boss, and then I'm going right back to Siralim. And I am about ready to call the stream there. And that's actually a nice place to wrap it up on, because I think I basically made my point, which is that for intrinsically motivated activities, like activities that we're doing them for the sake of doing them, I think it's important for the activity to feel directly related to the accomplishment that you're pursuing. And a lot of the time, games do not accomplish that because what they do is they set up a grind, or they set up a set of systems where you're working for a currency that is only abstractly or indirectly related to the sort of thing that you're trying to get your hands on. And so in doing that and having it be like separate from the core gameplay loop and stuff like that, they really managed to set up a situation where you feel it feels artificially grafted on, like the grind feels artificial and it feels sutured onto the core gameplay loop, and it just doesn't feel direct enough, and so the exchange ends up feeling dissatisfying. All right, guys, that is my time for tonight. I don't know if I'll stream anymore tonight. I don't think so, because after our meetup, it's usually really late. So I will continue this at some other time, maybe tomorrow, but I don't want to make a prior commitment at this point. So I'm gonna go chill out with my roommates, and you guys enjoy the rest of your night. Thank you for hanging out, Strider, and Alien Primate was here earlier, and thanks to anybody who dropped by my lonesome little corner of the internet. You guys are awesome. I'll see you later.